Good morning, it's me and my buddy today. Before we get onto this, I have to have a slight Waymo detour. They've got a new car, which I rode yesterday. It's amazing. But more additionally than that, there's a silent mode that you can trigger, which basically just has this like warm background music, and it doesn't say anything when you enter. It just is there. And it kind of reminds me of this move that airports did. I always say the move now because Claude tells me to do that, and I hate that. There's no move. What does that mean? It's just like airports did it. It wasn't a move. I was listening to a YouTube video the other day, and I was like, this guy is just straight reading Claude outputs. It's hard to listen to. So anyways, Brian Eno wrote a very seminal piece of music called Music for Airports because in the 70s, I guess they were not as chaotic, but San Francisco also is a quiet airport. There's not like a bunch of announcements. Neither here nor there. Today, I want to have a conversation that's boring and valuable. And, I've done enough of these sort of AI transformation things at go-to-market companies that I have some broad perspective about archetypes of companies. Whoa, let's add a little dimming here. So there's a couple of really hard things about getting AI into a place that can change outcomes. And it's about behavior change. Because I will see my customers all the time have a, please don't stop here, please don't stop here, please don't stop here. No. Wow. Sorry. My Waymo stopped in the middle of the intersection because a guy with a scooter decided right in front of us. Anyways, there are AI outputs that are worth nothing and you don't know. And then there are AI outputs that, maybe make some change to the status quo. But there are also AI outputs that, if acted upon, if someone does something with them, can have a 5x, 10x lift over what people were doing before. But the problem is, when a human consumes that information, they don't do a really good job with it. And I talk about the lily pad example here, where if a pond is filling every day, there's a lily pad and the number of lily pads doubles. And at day 300, the pond is full. What day was the pond half full? And, people say, oh, maybe like day 150, day 200. Like, you can pause here if you want to. It's day 299 because it doubles. So it was half full on the day before. And this is kind of the challenge of AI, is that if you know what you're doing, you can get a unit of work that can just have a tremendous output. Now, sort of a 10x outcome. You can't see it ahead of time. And usually when it does, the human systems aren't designed to handle that. They don't have, people don't really have emotion for if like 10x number of leads come in, or if a list is performing so well that they should really deploy more people to work it and stop doing their day jobs because people are really comfortable with routines. And so I kind of think that if you're thinking about organizational change here, at large companies, ideally that automation happens where you can collect revenue without any human involved. Like, that's the first thing you should try. which is how can we run an experiment where the outcome of the experiment, not the information, people love to get information because that's what they're used to in their sort of pre-AI life. Just get information to make a choice. It's like, no, just ship a choice. So if you can do that, then basically you can say, hey, this experiment works. And you don't have to rely on a human or any individual human saying, yeah, I'm going to change the way I work, which is a really hard thing to do. I mean, if I think about all the coffee shops that I frequent, there's, I don't know, 3 or 4 near me. And there's probably like 20 coffee shops within a half mile of me, within a mile of me. But there are some I've never tried. You can kind of tell, why. There's a decor problem. But on the AI output side, so that's like bucket one. Bucket one is, how can you run a test that doesn't require anyone? And this is weirdly easier at super large companies to run tests. Harder to get buy-in and to get organizational change to say, hey, we want to run a test on. And I actually had a friend at one of these fast-growing AI startups. They're over 100 million now. Basically it was like a long road and then this. But because they had grown so quickly, they still had that fast mentality. So he was like, let me just control all the traffic from New Zealand. I'm just going to run a test on all of New Zealand, and that'll be my fiefdom, my country that I can test things in. And we need that mentality. So that's bucket one. Bucket two is sort of, what's an experiment that will require human behavior to test on like a red team, or a team that is their whole job is this. Their whole job is testing. They can do nothing else. It's just testing. And then I think that instead of a test that works, you either need someone to, like, executive leadership to help take that unit and deploy those changes, or most likely you need a small scaler inside of like a second red team. I just think that without a really without a leader that has serious political clout, especially at large organizations, it's just so hard to do. And I have seen so many things sort of die on the vine because they just can't execute. And so I think that a lot of this AI transformation, the reason that I think you hear in the news and all these other places about why it's hard to quantify, is that on the labor saving side, no one is really excited about that. And also, the outputs are probably improved, but the revenue, the increase in revenue is the more interesting thing. And I think this is why VCs are more excited about these hyperscalers, not just because of I shouldn't call them hyperscalers, but like these fast growing AI companies, not just because of how much revenue they're getting in a short period of time, but that the fact that they're AI native means that when something changes, the whole organization is designed around that change. It's designed around how can we get to this scale without a lot of people. And I think about this thing that Shopify did, which is it just canceled all meetings. Like, they programmatically just removed all meetings from the calendar. And I can think of no better way to be as, I guess, to try to make an organization change than a move like that. A move. Shit, I need to get the word move out of my mouth. I really don't like how Claude is training me how to speak, because I have to keep forcing it. Anyways, that's another video. So what does this mean for you? Well, if you're going into a company and you're doing AI transformation-y things, you should try to design them around things that won't require human behavior change. If they will require human behavior change, to get a dedicated resource to go act on that. And ideally it's a dedicated resource plus a management resource, which is like someone to make sure that person is doing their job, but this can't be a side thing. I'm just so convinced that you can't get a fractional resource to do this because they're just going to be interested in their routine. And so when you pitch a company, make sure that the pitch is about things that can be done as autonomously as possible. Make sure that you have a dedicated resource, and then tee up the conversation of what happens when this works. And that's going to be the hardest thing. I have a client right now that they were, for every 100 calls they were making, they were getting one demo. Now, every 70 calls they make, they get one opportunity. I haven't done the ChatGPT math here to determine how big of a change that is, but it's because it's different metrics. But it's gigantic. And so we're not going to get anywhere with all this AI transformation stuff if we don't focus on outcomes. And if we don't work backwards from outcomes, and if we don't figure out a way, when we find a 10x outcome, when we find something that really, really moves the needle, how do we swallow it as an organization? And, you know, in many ways, this is classic innovator's dilemma, right? Why Google is having a hard time killing search for like a full chat product, because it's their cash cow. And usually companies do this to their own demise. But you don't have to. I think that's it. I'm gonna try to not say the word move. That's the whole move. I have gotten Claude to do a better job at not sounding that way. And I think that usually it is by if I have a video, it does a pretty good job. But usually it's by having a very clear story and having Claude only write, not tell a story, if that makes sense, where I am dictating sort of the outline, etc., and I will have Claude take my transcripts and fill in the rest. All right, I have babbled on for too long. I'm traveling. This fall, I'm going to Austin and Chicago and somewhere in Florida. I should really figure out where in Florida. Speaking of Sculpt here in San Francisco, October 8th. I would love it if you come with me. And I'm thinking about doing my own thing before Sculpt. It'd have to be before. It'd have to be on that Wednesday. I can't do it after. But let me know if you'd like to attend. Are you coming to Sculpt in October 8th? I am working on, I'm like brewing on my keynote now. And maybe I'll save that for another video. All right, everyone. Later. Goodbye, Jordan's audience. Thanks for letting